Tonight on Business Live, government revises Ghana's 2022 economic growth down from 5.5% to 3.7%, citing COVID restraints and the war on Ukraine as key factors. There is more ahead as financial experts respond to the finance minister's silence and savings made from government expenditure cuts.
A changed global outlook since the war has manifested. According to the IMF, the outlook has darkened significantly and uncertainty is exceptionally high. The downside risks about which the IMF had previously warned have now materialized.
Also, we'll hear from a petroleum expert as Finance Minister announces government intends to use the windfall revenue from the upstream petroleum sector to support funding to make up for revenue shortfalls and aggressively improve the country's revenues, even as it's rationalized expenditures. Plus, the Social Security and National Trust, SNET, debunks claims made by the TUC that the trust uses a class system in the payment of funds.
Our obligation is to replace that income for you. So if you came to us to insure 500 Ghana cedis, you will get the replacement of the equivalent of that 500 Ghana cedis.
I'm Charles Ayitey. We have more stories coming up. Just stay with us. The mid-year budget presentation has been made by the Finance Minister on the floor of Parliament. In sections of this presentation, government has announced its intent to use the windfall revenue from the upstream petroleum sector to support funding to make up for revenue shortfalls and aggressively improve Ghana's revenues, even as we rationalize expenditure. Joining me to discuss is petroleum expert Dr. Yusuf Suleiman. We're grateful that you could join us. First of all, give us your analysis on the Finance Minister's statement.
Yeah, thank you very much, Charles, and good evening to you and to your Charles viewers out there in Ghana and across the globe. Yes, so Charles, that is refreshing. With respect to this particular statement, where the Finance Minister made a point that, they intend to use the windfall from the upstream side to support, deficit, areas of deficit wherever we have funded. That is a very welcome statement. But from where I sit, I think we have to follow through to see, because what we have been calling, even before COVID, we have called that severally, that we should be in a better position to be able to link up our upstream and downstream sector seamlessly. Why we are saying that is the fact that, most of the time we do have these boom and bust cycles where oil prices could collapse at one hand and then where oil prices could also, skyrocket on the other hand. And I think we did use this one in a very good way when oil prices collapsed. If you remember the introduction of SPT, Special Petroleum Tax, that was at the backdrop of the fact that oil prices had collapsed then. That tax has come to stay. Now, what we're saying that this particular statement, actually, he's saying that they are now going to, is the first time that I see the high-ranking government official recognizing that we will actually have a windfall. Yes, we did have a windfall. Our shares within our Ghana oil field is not that much, but as meager as our shares are, if we're budgeting about 65 and we are now having 100 plus, indeed we have a windfall. What to use this windfall is the question here. They said they're going to use it to cover budget deficit or funding. We have to look at where our strategic advantage lies. Currently, what we have now, Charles, is the bending of the downstream side, where prices of petroleum products are skyrocketing. They are skyrocketing because of high prices of crude oil at the upstream side, apart from exchange rate and other dynamic taxes that come into the picture. So what I'm trying to say is that that statement we have to follow through. And if the finance minister or the government of Ghana actually want to have a firm hold or a firm footing or hold tightly on inflation figures, then we have to be able to control the skyrocketing prices of petroleum products. Because globally, actually, this skyrocketing inflationary figure that we have is as a result of high energy costs. And we have opportunity here. And the opportunity is that if we manage to be able to link up this upstream and downstream seamlessly, where the windfall, as he mentioned, it can be, it can be cascaded to the downstream side strategically. How can it be cascaded to the downstream side strategically? We have a huge number of taxes that is currently putting this petroleum products at this high prices as we have it now. If you can take some of the windfall to cool off some of the taxes, it could be temporary, but that is very crucial. And I think it is crucial at this moment because when we do that, we're going to have a firm hold on the inflationary figures. If we don't do that and oil prices keep skyrocketing as it is at the downstream side, then we live to have ourselves. We will have ourselves to blame. Yes, I think governments all over the world are now looking at strategic ways of cushioning the consumer because that will help propel economic growth. We can no more longer leave market forces at this moment to save you at the end of the day. Yes, market forces will come to aid, but at a slow pace. Right now, crude oil prices are dropping gradually. Albeit it is still in the three-digit figure. So that content drop is not enough to significantly impact what the consumer pays at the downstream. So yes, that statement is welcoming, but let's strategically push it to the downstream side to pushing the consumer where petroleum prices can come down. If petroleum product prices can come down at the downstream, I think it will inure to the benefit of the entire economy. And it's like killing two birds with one stone.
So how do you respond to various concerns out there that the finance minister's statement and even government's standpoint on the windfall when it comes to the upstream petroleum sector is not just miscalculating, but also a misprioritization of government revenue? Because as you rightly stated, using the windfall to shore up for revenue shortfalls as against cushioning consumers against the fluctuations in oil prices is a deficit in priority.
Yeah, that's a fact, Charles. So that's what I'm saying we have to follow through. And people are right when they say that, if we use such a windfall, in a different direction, that will not inure to the benefit of the petroleum consumer. And see, when we are talking about strategic tax cuts that will benefit the entire economy, it is not about the consumer. Actually, it is about propelling economic growth. High energy costs will not inure to the benefit of economic growth, because we are stampeding consumer spending. And when consumer spending is stampeded, definitely to cut across everywhere. And we are seeing it now. So yes, if we don't prioritize well, those who called for the fact that if we stand a chance to misappropriate this particular windfall if we don't direct it at the strategic location, it's factual. If we don't actually direct it, for me, where I sit, I think the government should make concerted effort to direct it at the downstream to cool down the pumps. Finito, as easy as that. If you can do that, it is going to help drastically to reduce the cost of goods and services, and that will just arrest the inflation figure that we have at the moment.
How sustainable will this move by government be in the medium to short term?
Yeah, so if you notice, we are used to actually pumping dollars into our system to be able to cool down, depreciation in the city. That has never been sustainable. But linking the upstream, making concerted effort to link up the upstream and downstream is always the sustainable way to go. I'm saying that because if we do that, at the end of the day, areas where I come from, where the downstream and upstream sectors are linked up, with the downstream sector having what we call a robust refinery base. There's something I want to make clear here, Charles. If the downstream sector is linked to the upstream sector, and we still don't have
Oops, I'm afraid that we have lost Dr. Yusuf Suleiman there, but he's been making a very poignant point. The fact that government would have to create a very firm linkage between the windfall, revenue from the upstream sector to cushioning consumers down the, petroleum pumps, especially when oil prices continue to plunge and its impact on inflation, having very, very much of a dire situation. Well, moving on in the meantime, the finance minister's presentation has attracted some response from financial experts who are disappointed by the minister's failure to account for the amount of money saved from the expenditure cuts announced earlier this year. Let's start from Gilbert Urenchi. He's a senior partner with Deloitte.
It would have been great if we could have gotten some figures in terms of the savings they've made in some of these cuts that you did allude to. And I mean, once you have a figure to these particular measures, then there is a base for measurement, and there's also a base for us to assess the reallocation of these funds into other sectors of the economy. And I think that unfortunately, we were not able to hear that. Maybe later on, they may provide further details on that. I would also like to touch on the tax amnesty. I think that has been a very good measure. I think they brought a tax amnesty and it was supposed to have ended by the 31st of December 2021. It was extended to
by 6 months. Now it's been extended by another 6 months.
I think that is good news for taxpayers. And the reason for saying so is that, I mean, it gives room for taxpayers, hitherto who were afraid, let me put it that way, to maybe go to the GRA and say, look, I have erred in this area. This is the quantum in terms of the principal and in terms of what the interest in respect of that principal, for that interest or that penalty to be set aside for that taxpayer. We have been at the forefront of this. The challenge for me is that would taxpayers understand the processes of taking advantage of this? I mean, that's what practically is happening now, because in terms of documentation, how to document the returns, how to populate it, how to do the quantification, is something that taxpayers will need assistance, and it's very important that they take advantage of this. But I'm just also asking myself, it would have been also wonderful if we could have known how much government have raised as a result of this tax amnesty exercise.
Meanwhile, a former finance minister said Tekpa says the media budget presentation does not send the right signals to international investors exiting Ghana's market.
Expenditure is to go down to 135 billion, not so significant, but also remember he said the revenue is to go down from 100 billion to 96 billion. In terms of deficit, when you subtract the two, there's no savings, because the deficit remains at 37, 38, and we had calculated the deficit to be 43 billion actually, because of what we think was an arithmetical, error. So yes, there may have been a saving on the expenditure side, down from 137 to 135, if my memory serves me right. And then the revenue is also going down from 100 billion to 96 billion, which I think is still optimistic, but we can, give the opportunity. Now, but on a bigger note, I think that we missed an opportunity to send a signal, to the markets and to the IMF in terms of our preparedness for negotiations and in terms of opening the doors, access to the markets, which he mentioned, for which reason he said we were going to depend in the meantime on the domestic market. We know the performance of the domestic market has not been stellar anyway. We know there has been auction shortfalls. We know that government has had to increase interest rates, and it will result in crowding. I think these are things which we have been discussing, all along. So there seems to be no change in policy there.
This is Business Live. Still to come in the bulletin, the Social Security and National Trust that's National Insurance Trust, NIT, debunks claims made by the Trade Union Congress, TUC, that the trust uses a class system in the payment of funds. More after this break.
Our obligation is to replace that income for you. So if you came to us to insure 500 Ghana cedis, you will get the replacement of the equivalent of that 500 Ghana cedi.
The Director General of SNET, Dr. John Okfori-Tinkraan, has debunked claims made by the Secretary General of the TUC that the trust uses a class system in the payment of funds. Dr. Okfori-Tinkraan, who was speaking at the Joy Business on the site of the 5th Regional Engagement between SNET and TUC in the Western region, said the meager salaries that many workers receive affects their retirement benefits. Correspondent Inathalia Kwanzaa has the rest of the story.
It would be recorded that the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Dr. Yao Ba, a few days ago called for the total overhaul of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust due to some disparities and low pension benefits to retired public sector workers. But the trust says the major salaries received by many workers rather affect their retirement benefits. According to the trust, the workers should take on their respective institutions over their dissatisfaction, adding the employee must demand good salaries from their employers to reflect their better retirement packages.
We are not an investment company. It is for good reason that we are called Social Security and National Insurance Trust. We are an insurance company, and all we insure is earnings. In fact, our commitment to you is that when you come to us and you keep on paying the premiums, like just like you pay an insurance premium, when that income that you are earning stops, which will be akin to, let's say your car had an accident and the income has stopped, which in this case will be when you turn 60 and that income has stopped because you are on pension. Our obligation is to replace that income for you. So if you came to us to insure 500 Ghana cedis, you will get the replacement of the equivalent of that 500 Ghana cedis. Are you with me? If you came to us and you insured 10,000 Ghana cedis, we will replace part of the 10,000 Ghana cedis. So that is why different people earn different amounts in pension.
The call was made during the second TUC SNIT Regional Educational Tour in Takoradi in the Western region on the theme, Understanding the Value Proposition of SNIT, the Role of Organized Labor as Partners in Promoting the Scheme Among Workers in Ghana.
It is very rare for management of an organization to be moving from their comfortable offices in Accra to the regions to engage with labor. This shows that SNIT management knows that we are the contributors and they are our trustees. And as trustees, they have to be very transparent. And in showing their transparency, they want to come close to us. And let us know the way SNIT operates, how they are operating, how they are actually keeping our money in trust for us, how they are making sure our SNIT is sustained, how they are making sure they don't fail in paying pension at the end of the month, how they are making sure we can understand the operations of SNIT very, very, very well.
Western Regional Chairman of the TUC, Charles Asamoah, on his part said the engagement with SNIT has been an eye-opener and a reason to fight for better salaries for their members.
The engagement with SNIT has always been a very wonderful one. It's a way of SNIT trying to let workers understand how the pension is calculated. From the discussion and from the presentation from the Deputy Director General of SNIT, it gives us the understanding that much of the work is not from their end, but the work itself is about the pay of the Ghanaian worker. The Ghanaian workers' pay is small, and so therefore the pension is small. Therefore, how can we handle it? The only way we can handle it is to look at what is in the law. The law has stated that SNIT should do A, B, C, and D. How can we handle it? The Act 766. That is where, we as workers will have to look at it and see how we can push for some amendment of a sort to be done. And also, we have to push for a better salary. When our salaries are bettered, when our salaries increase, that is where definitely we will also be able to get a better pension at the end of the day. For SNIT, they are there to implement what the law has given them to implement.
The forum equipped members on the new SNIT Pension Act and measures put in place by management to help sustain the scheme. For Joy Business, in Athalia Kwanza, Takoradi.
And with insurance penetration being low and unchanging in Ghana, the Chartered Insurance Institute of Ghana has stated that it will re-engage stakeholders to embark on initiatives to ensure growth of the sector to support the economy. According to its president, Tiria Ben Ahmed, the sector can see significant growth when it reviews its approach in reaching out to the populace. He spoke to Joy Business at the 2022 edition of the Chartered Insurance Institute of Ghana Awards.
The event had the primary objective of recognizing and promoting the best insurance practices in Ghana. Individual award nominees were judged on their professional conduct, leadership abilities, contributions to the industry, and most crucially, the field they worked in. Tiria Ben Ahmed, president of the Chartered Insurance Institute of Ghana, speaking to Joy Business, called for transparency and credibility in the daily activities of insurance professionals with their clients.
Because what we want to do is to ensure we promote professional excellence in insurance, because we want to make sure that insurance earns the level of trust and confidence it deserves to be able to contribute to the development of Ghana. And as you did indicate, our special guest of honor, Mr. Kwame Mpiani, made very, very significant suggestions to improve insurance penetration and contribution to the GDP of Ghana. I must tell you what, the ideas he put forward are very, very important ideas. And these ideas, as insurance practitioners, we're going to look into them, engage our partners, including the regulators and the industry bodies, to see how we can take forward the very important ideas that he put forward. So we really, really appreciate the insight and ideas he's put forward, and we are going to look into them to see how we can take them from an idea stage to be able to implement and see how they can grow insurance in Ghana.
Renowned economist and politician Mr. Kwame Pienim urged players of the insurance sector to block leakages within the sector to increase saving and support the gross domestic product of the state. He further called on the National Insurance Commission to ensure all mandatory sectors of the economy.
We need a very strong insurance company to generate the type of funds that can be used to fund critical infrastructure and productive investment, and create jobs for our young people. Why we always emphasize the young people? Because the young people, either you mobilize them and they become factors for economic development, or they become forces for destabilizing the society. We need to create conditions conducive for increasing insurance premium collections from our estimated below 2% of GDP to 3%, which is what our peer countries collect.
The Multimedia Group Limited at the event won the Best Insurance Media House of the Year. The umbrella body of insurance professionals says it will continue to champion the redefinition of the sector's penetration rate.
Well, that'll be it for Business Live with me, Charles Ayitey. For more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. Many thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of our programs.